There were only seconds left in the game and he faked a dive for a penalty. The crowd thought it was all over, but they couldn't believe what would happen next. It was the semi-finals. Watford and Leicester City were tied. The game was 5 minutes into injury time, and the whistle would be blown in 20 seconds.
This knockout scores it. Leicester City go to Wembley, and it's the end for Watford.
But a lot can happen in 20 seconds. He took the penalty and the keeper saved it. He followed it up and the keeper saved it again. The defence cleared the ball up the pitch and Watford launched a counter-attack.
Absolutely astonishing. Now here come Watford.
The right wing crossed the ball into the centre. Watford kept it away from the keeper back to their striker and...
With the very last kick of this playoff semi-final, Troy Deeney wins it for Watford and sends them to Wembley.
Don't go backwards, stay on top. Come on, Daddy, stay on top.
Leif Sundberg found himself in a lot of trouble on the last obstacle of the American Ninja Warrior course. If he touched the water with his feet at all, he'd lose the competition. It wasn't looking good. He tried swinging his body on the roller to get his weight on top, but after multiple attempts, he couldn't get it. His arms were getting tired, so he had to find another way. He started swinging back and forth on the roller. It looked like he was going to try and make a jump for the end platform, but instead, he swung himself backwards, catching his feet on the other roller. But then what? He was still stuck under the rollers, right? Not for long. He twisted himself up on top of the rollers and the audience was left with their jaws on the floor after what he did next. This is true sportsmanship. In the years leading up to the Tokyo Olympics, Mutaz Essa Barshim and Gianmarco Tamberi had each torn ligaments in their ankles, injuries that nearly ended both their careers. So when they were the last two athletes left in the Olympic high jump finals in 2021, they had already beaten the odds, coming so much further than they thought they would. As the bar was set higher and higher, neither of them showed any signs of slowing down until the bar height hit 2 meters 39 centimeters. Neither of them could make it over. They each tried and failed 3 times. The official brought them in to discuss breaking the tie with a jump off, where they would put the bar back down a level, essentially saying which competitor can continue jumping the height and outlasting the other. However, Barsham had another idea.
Can we have 2 gold? It's possible. It depends if you go this side. Olympic champion.
They shared first place, each getting the gold medal. This pilot is trying to land his plane on a helipad. Luke Zapila attempted the world's first helipad plane landing, but things weren't going to plan. The helipad is only 27 meters wide, and it's 56 stories high. One wrong move could spell disaster. He'd practiced on the ground, overshooting the mark multiple times before finally succeeding, but no amount of practice could prepare him for the nerve-wracking feeling of his real attempt. He approached the helipad, attempted to touch down, but the wind picked up as he approached, throwing the plane off balance and causing Luke to bounce off the helipad, forcing him to pull out at the last minute. Luke was shaken but not deterred. He went back for a second attempt, but this time misjudged his height. He was about to give up.
I'm not sure we can do it.
But he decided to give it one more shot.
I'll try another one. Dart is on bullseye.
Bullseye, my friend!
She broke the world record and she had no idea. This is Kendra Harrison. She's lining up to race in the Diamond League in London. 2 weeks before this race, Kendra came in 6th place and failed to qualify for the US Olympic team.
Kendra in lane 2. She's not even close. Brianna Rollins wins it. Kendra finishes 6th with the time of 12.62.
In this race, she was up against the 3 Americans who did qualify for the team. So everyone was expecting a similar outcome. Nobody was expecting what would happen next.
But look at Kenny Harrison storming away with this, and look at the margin of victory. Watch the clock. 12.58 there for Kenny Harrison.
But her time wasn't as good as it could have been. It was barely better than her time 2 weeks prior. So what happened? Did the other runners just take it easy this time? No. The race clock was wrong. Kendra had beaten the world record.
12.20 and the world record is gone. Kenny Harrison has done it. That was sensational.
This paraplegic skier is about to try the world's first double backflip on a sit-down ski in the same spot that paralyzed him 6 years earlier. Trevor Kennison was forced to give up snowboarding when he suffered a spinal cord injury in 2014. After his injury, Trevor tried to get into other sports, but he always missed the thrill of snowboarding. On a whim, he decided to try using a sit ski, an adaptive device which enables wheelchair users to ski. He fell in love with snow sports again, and 6 years later he returned to the mountain that he was injured at, determined to conquer the spot which changed his life.
Watch this, baby!
She beat the world record by such a huge margin that people couldn't believe it was real. When Toby Amuson beat Kendra Harrison's world record, there were questions raised. Kendra's record in 2016 was only 1/100th of a second faster than the former world record, which had stood for 28 years. So in 2022, when Toby set a time of 12.12, nearly 1/10th of a second faster than Kendra's record, some people couldn't believe it. They said wind speed wasn't accounted for correctly, or the race clock was wrong. People even speculated that Toby's shoes somehow gave her an unfair advantage. The concerns got even louder in the finals on the same day when Toby smashed the record again, running a 12.06. Was this really the new world record? No. After reviewing the wind reading, Toby's second time was judged not to be world record legal. There was just too much wind. But her first time?
It's been confirmed. That is a massive world record.
There was no faulty clock, no unaccounted for wind speeds, and no magic shoes. Toby really was so fast that she beat the world record by such a huge margin that people couldn't believe it was real. It was the last few minutes of the game. The keeper tried to stop the goal, but he failed, and the ball was going in. However, this player refused to accept defeat, and he did something that nobody could believe. He sprinted in and he managed to stop the ball. But at what cost? The referee stopped the game as the player lay motionless on the ground. But after being checked out, the player was okay and likely earned some newfound respect from his fellow teammates. Would you do this to win a game? This is the most intense baby race you will ever see in your life. The announcer started the race and immediately baby Lila was off to a massive lead, leaving all the other babies in her dust. She powered across the field towards the finish line. However, disaster struck as she approached the finish line and it was clear she was heading to the wrong parent. Lila was getting tired and confused. She had exerted too much energy early on after rocketing to the finish line, and she needed a nap. And that's when baby Jimmy saw his opportunity. Jimmy blasted his way towards the line, catching up to Lila until disaster yet again. Jimmy was distracted by something shiny, and he started heading the wrong way. Lila woke up from her nap disoriented and also started heading the wrong way. And that's when Brexley, the underdog, who had only just learned to crawl 1 week before the race, astounded the whole stadium and took home the gold medal. A crash on the ice almost killed him, but the lesson that he learned gave him a secret advantage. In 1994, Stephen Bradbury was competing in a speed skating event in Montreal when a collision on the ice ended with another skater's blade slicing through his leg, cutting his femoral artery and causing him to lose multiple liters of blood, almost killing him. Stephen made a recovery and continued pushing on in his career. By 2002, Stephen was 30 years old. He was an incredible skater and he made it all the way to the semi-finals at the Winter Olympics, but he knew he wasn't going to be able to keep up with the fastest skaters in the world, so he had to change his tactics. He'd been around long enough to know how easily and quickly accidents can change the outcome of the race, particularly in high-intensity finals. So he took it easy, hung back, and let the odds fall in his favor. When the other skaters crashed in the semi-finals, he made it through, and then, once again, his patience paid off. He won Australia's first ever gold medal at the Winter Olympics. This guy just launched himself off a cliff on his motorbike, but there's no landing pad. Luke wanted to raise money for a charity that helps people with Crohn's disease, so he came up with this absolutely insane idea to launch his motorbike off this cliff. So they set up the jump, but they didn't set up a landing, because where Luke's going, he doesn't need a landing. Luke deployed the parachutes and he sailed away to safety. She lost her shoe when she launched off the starting line, but that didn't stop her. She quickly slipped the shoe on, then set off back down the track. The fact that she didn't let that stop her and she still gave it her all was already incredible, but what happened next left the whole crowd in awe. She won. This is the first and most intense grandparents race you will ever see in your life. The starting gate opened and the grandparents were off. It was neck and neck between the three grandpas that pulled out to the front of the pack, but it wasn't long before disaster struck. Grey shirt grandpa had peaked too early and he slammed into the ground face first. It was down to Golf Grandpa and Casual Shorts Grandpa, the two grandpas from the Blue Shirt League. Golf Grandpa turned on the afterburners and he started to pull ahead from Casual Shorts Grandpa, and it looked like he might just take home the win, but his determination was too much for his hips to handle, and he too ate a face full of dirt, leaving Casual Shorts Grandpa to take home the win. There were 2 minutes left on the clock and he missed a free throw on purpose. But why? In 1993, Chris Street set the Iowa record for the most consecutive free throws made, landing 34 consecutive throws, and it looked like he was just going to keep pushing the record higher and higher. However, only a few days after throw number 34, his life was cut short by a car accident. Nobody had even come close to the record ever since, until Jordan Bohannon. Jordan had tied Chris's record and his team, the Hawkeyes, were only up by 8 points with 2 minutes still left on the clock. Jordan lined up for the free throw and...
He missed that one pretty badly. It's rare for him to miss, let alone miss like that.
Jordan tapped his heart and pointed to the sky. The Hawkeyes won. Jordan embraced with Chris's family who were watching on the sidelines, and he was asked an important question by the reporters.
Did you miss the free throw on purpose? Obviously, that's not my record to have, and that record deserves to stay in his name.
Now, Chris and Jordan share the record.